Everyone, and a welcome to joining us for today's webinar on South Africa fire statistics. At the Fire Protection Association of Southern Africa, we work closely with local authority fire brigades across the country to collect and process relevant fire incident data. This collaborative effort enables us to compile comprehensive national fire loss statistics on an annual basis, which we proudly publish in our Fire Protection magazine and make available to all. It's now my pleasure to introduce our speaker, Marius Atterbury. Marius began his career in 1985 with the Boksburg Fire Department, where he served for 25 years in various roles, including operations, training, public information, education and relations, and fire safety. His journey continued as the department evolved into Ekurhuleni Emergency Services. In 2011, Marius joined Eskom as the functional leader for fire risk and emergency management, where he played a key role in advancing fire risk strategies at a national level. Since January 24, Marius has been serving as the CEO of FPA, bringing his decades of experience and leadership to the forefront of fire protection and safety in South Africa. We're honored to have him with us today to share his insight. Let's get started. Marius, I'm handing over to you.
Thank you very much, Christine, and from my side also a warm welcome to everybody that has joined us today. I'm going to ask Barbara, who's busy driving all our presentations, to swap the screen over to my presentation. Can I perhaps in the meantime get a few thumbs ups just to indicate that you are actually seeing our screen and hearing our voices? Thank you very much. And I see one or two people have found the hands up as well. So thanks all for that indication. There we go. We're just waiting a little bit. Let me start off by thanking Christine for her hard work. She's now introduced me, but most of the material that I'll be sharing will be coming from an article that she penned for our quarterly magazine. I see we're still just waiting for my presentation to come up, and one or two of you have your hands up. If I can encourage you to lower them, unless you have a question right at this point in time. So I'll just give you a moment or so to find that lower hand button as well. So Christine has been part of this collection system. She and Neo are the people that have been getting things from all over the place, putting that together, and eventually you would see once a year we publish in our magazine all of the statistics. I'm going to carry on just chatting while I hope that Barbara is busy winning with the flighting the presentation from her side. So Barbara, give me an indication. There we go. I see the screen is busy changing. Excellent. Thank you very much. Great stuff. So yeah, there's a bit of an intro. And we can go to the next slide, please, Barbara. Thanks for all those confirmations. So what we're going to have a look at a little bit today is really in a nutshell, why fire incident statistics are so very important. We've broken it down into a couple of headings. I'm not going to read through all of that. But we're going to journey through the importance, have a bit of a look at the history, and also try and imagine a future that we will see this look a whole lot different and hopefully better. Next slide, please. As it's changing, we are recording the session, and hopefully it will be available on our YouTube channel if you ever want to go back to it. Next slide, please. Why would we want to have it? What's the advantage of having fire statistics? Uh, well, it's got to do with understanding what has happened. Uh, and this is not only true in the fire arena. You can go and have a look at people doing market research. They like to have statistics on what sold, what didn't sell, in which areas certain things sold and which areas certain things didn't sell. And then they wouldn't put up a shop that sells that in an area where the market statistics indicated that it didn't work. So next time you see some fancy new product on a shelf, guess the brand of this or guess the taste of this. Uh, know that they're busy checking statistics on whether that is a worthwhile product to sell. Now, we're in a bit of a different business in terms of having to respond to emergencies and fires. Uh, when we have appropriate statistics, we will be able to see what patterns are out there. We'd be able to understand what caused the fire in the first case, and we'll expand on what am I going to do with that. And all of that understanding helps that I can prepare better. Not only prepare better in terms of the response side of things. You'll most probably hear me today refer to the white paper on fire services every now and then. But prevention is going to be and is already one of the key focuses as we take fire services into the modern centuries. Uh, and without understanding the history, accurate statistics, in other words, it'll be very difficult, if not impossible, to determine, well, what can we do to prevent these fires? And very definitely, having proper statistics is also an indication of what do I need to respond effectively? Uh, what kind of vehicles might I need? What kind of training would my people need? Even how many people I might need. We do have a SANS 10090 standard, community protection against fire, but keep in mind that that's like a generic view on what we kind of believe is the best way to go. But once we do proper statistical analysis, I might find that I need more of something in an area, or I might be able to prove that if I put less there, I am still effective. I will still be able to respond effectively, do proper preventative measures, etc. And then there's the element of engineering. Here, one of the key things amongst a bunch of others that I'm thinking of is if we understand that there is a certain trend of a product that is always involved in fires, then we can go and engage with how is that product built? What's the engineering that it's gone into it? Because the role of engineering is to have safe products to do the work. Engineers aren't supposed to find the quickest and easiest way to do something that is also very dangerous. They're supposed to actually engineer safety and effectiveness into one thing. And our statistics help inform that kind of engineering going forward. I would even venture, and I want to plant a little bit of a seed around engineering, that if we understand how we respond, what the vehicle currently is built like, how much water it currently carries, uh, and am I using that to the most uh, productive response elements around a certain fire? Isn't there perhaps a way that I can engineer a new way of responding that will be more effective, uh, maybe cost less, might cost a little bit more, but the more effectiveness part means that I put out the fire quicker, the recovery from those people affected are quicker, and even my own readiness for the next fire might be better. And all of those would be engineering solutions. Next one, please, Barbara. As we look at our statistics, one of the statistics that we do collect is around fire deaths. Actually, a very sad statistic. And you'll see I'm not going to harp very much on the actual numbers today. We're talking about principles and how we take the principles forward. But if I understand, for example, as you see there, that most of the fire deaths occur early in the morning, in winter time, and within a certain demographic group in the country, I can now start thinking, well, what is the causative factors around that? How can I work that prevention element? How do I do education to help that prevention element? How do I better prepare my response for those areas that are so affected? And we'll carry on the slides coming about that a little bit more. I can identify what resources I need, people resources, vehicle resources, equipment resources, uh, training resources. All of that can be informed and should be informed with the statistics that we have collected. We'll be able to then take those resources, and the picture to the right is like a nearly 25-year-old picture, and you'll be able to identify that part of that is KZN with some of their fire stations at the time. I'm quite sure that the picture is different now, but I was fortunate enough to have been shared this picture just before the 2010 World Cup. So a little bit of an older picture. But there they have an indication with the work that they've done, not necessarily from response statistics, but from expected hazard areas where the various fire stations are. And one of the interesting things that we saw at that time, for example, was that the Germans would run a computer simulation, and with that identify that during the day, it is best that I have all my or most of my fire trucks and my trained people close to the industrial area, because the residential areas are of low use then. Everybody has gone to work. But as things shift, there were, for their examples, the German example, enough reason to then reduce the number of people in that industrial area, reduce the vehicles, and take one or two crews and rather place them close to the residential areas. We don't have enough information currently to say our incident statistics would support an approach like that. And those are the things that we want to get to for that optimal resource placement based on real incident statistics. We can even, with some proper trending and looking at all of the collective pieces of information, work our fire prevention in such a way that it targets areas that have the highest incidence of fire occurrences, highest fatalities, highest injuries, highest losses. We then understand where we can do those fire prevention activities, both the education and the enforcement side of it. Thank you, Barbara. Next one, please. Expanding a little bit on the fire deaths. If we can understand that we have certain trends. Barbara, please go back to that slide. Thank you. If we understand that we've got certain trends around fire deaths with proper statistical information, then we can effectively prepare for that and plan for that and put some measures in place to stop that from happening And we'll unfortunately, I'm a realist in terms of this, unfortunately, we'll never be able to totally eradicate fire deaths. In the most developed countries, they have not been able to eradicate fire deaths, but our per capita fire death in this country is extraordinarily high. Now, right now, if you want to know about fire deaths, if you, after this, perhaps interested in some numbers, we do record that, and you can go and have a look at our latest magazine. But you'll find more interesting information around fire-related deaths in the Stats SA portal. So Stats SA has, as part of their bigger statistical information, all the deaths recorded in South Africa, because every person that passes away has to be given a death certificate, and the death certificates would capture reason for death. And if the doctor or whoever declared the person deceased records fire as part of the reason for that fatality, Stats SA picks that up from the death certificates. So you'll find that there's a mismatch between what's on Stats SA and what FPA has received, FPASA, as fire death statistics. And it's got to do with some elements we'll touch on a little bit later, the completeness of the reports, etc. And that last point is really, it goes beyond just the fire deaths, but anything where we want to improve, less fire deaths, less fire-related injuries, less fire-related losses, etc., is dependent on good, accurate, quick data that comes through. Next slide, please, Barbara. So what are some of our challenges, and what might we be able to do about it? Next slide, please. We see, as one of the other slides very briefly summarized, that in winter, we have people using open flames in certain socioeconomic environments to both heat their place, and by the way, as I'm saying that, I'm realizing this will be on two different ends of the spectrum. People that are very affluent will most probably have open flames because they can afford to have a built-in fireplace in their house. And people on the lower income scale have no choice but to have the open flame happen. But the fact of the matter is, we then identify that the use of open flame for those certain activities, heating and cooking during the colder months, is cause of fires. And then just for a bit of a thought-provoking comment, we might then also see more wildland fires occur. And we also now have a good idea that the wildland fire season, veld fires and things, are not restricted anymore just to like a 3-4 month period. It seems to run much longer. And then I ask the question, well, is this the reality? How can we say that? Is it really true? And I can tell you that it is mostly true, because there are people tracking wildland fires over and above the statistics that we receive at FPASA. People are tracking that from a vegetation management point of view and all over, but it's that data, it's the statistics that come through that is giving us that insight, that is helping us understand that certain fire hazards are growing bigger. Now, whether you believe in climate change or not doesn't matter. The statistics show that the problem is getting bigger. Then we can stop the debate about whether it is um, the diesel engines and the all kinds of human intervention, or whether it is just a natural cycle that happened, that does not matter anymore. The statistics show us that the problem is real, so we have to look for a real solution, and we can spend less time debating on was it us or is it just creation doing what it does. We see that the way that houses get built, the material that gets used in house building, that has an impact on our fire look and feel. Uh, as we see more and more informal settlements, as we see more and more low-cost housing, there's a change that happens there in how these things burn. But also, all of a sudden, we've got certain green initiatives going on. And I remember reading an article by ex-chief Wynand Engelbrecht about people basically planting forests around their high-rise buildings. And if we get to a point where nobody's taking care of that, or you didn't use forever green things, and now I've got a dried out forest on the outside of my building, we're going to have a different kind of fire risk coming from there with a higher impact. What we need to have a look at in terms of mitigation is, are there things that we can do so that those people using the open type flame as a solution have something safer? In that arena, we've seen people try and put out safer paraffin stoves over the years. Excellent endeavor to have been launched. All paraffin stoves that get imported into the country are supposed to be this new safer type. And I bet you my bottom dollar, if you go to the local general store, you will still find all of those older, less safe paraffin stoves freely available. And whether you are affluent or poor, South African mindset is typically, I'm going to try and buy the lowest price item that can do the job for me. So we have, where paraffin stoves are used, the cheaper ones, they're everywhere. And that creates this extra fire risk. How do we know, how we're going to track that that is still a problem, is if our fire reporting indicates some element of that, so that we can perhaps go back and put greater pressure on the import side of things, that we don't have those cheap, unsafe ones in the country. As an example, we can see improvement in what kind of buildings get put up. First part there is the distance between buildings. Just yesterday, no, Tuesday, I was in the plane yesterday, but Tuesday I sat together with another group of people, studies done at universities, University of Stellenbosch specifically as well, where they prove where we have informal settlements that are a meter or less structures, or the distance between structures are a meter or less, we are fairly certain that we will have rapid fire spread throughout that informal settlement. Where we have a distance of 3 meters or more between structures, the probability goes extremely low for any of that type of fire spread. How do we get those people to adhere to something like this? Because it's a bit of a difficult one to go and legislate and enforce, but mostly all of us want to be safe. All of us don't want our places to burn down, whether it is a low-cost place or a very nice high-end, Bloubergstrand or something place. We don't want it to burn down. So the public education, that awareness, helping people to understand it is better for you to have the spacing distance. But there are also other solutions like then spraying some form of a fire retardant, not necessarily the high-end stuff that you see in factories and the like, but spraying that on those exposed walls where they're closer than a meter to each other, that can also limit the spread of fire. Question now then would come, if we look at these mitigations and these improvements that we're putting in place to reduce it, how will we know that those things have been effective if we do not have good, accurate statistics to build our case on, to say, do you see where we did public education? People have built further away from each other. We had fires again, but 2 years ago, we lost 80 structures, 140. This time round, with those extra distances, or maybe the spray, we only lost 4. If we don't have accurate statistics, we're going to be extremely challenged to prove that the type of mitigations we've put in place, the solutions that we've helped people to latch onto, had any kind of a positive effect. Statistics, reporting, super important. Next one, please, Barbara. I carried on a little bit about the public education side of things. And the principle of public education is understand what is the highest problem giver in a specific area. Maybe you have more than one, and you focus what you tell people, you focus how you help them on those specific problem areas. The vision must be that as we resolve those specific problem areas, let's, for the sake of this conversation, say it is the building things too close to each other. And we get it right that the people create the distance or put on the spray. It doesn't mean that all of a sudden now they have a super safe society. It means we can now look at the next thing that's in line, which might be how they make their fires, that they can make their fires in a safer way, because they still don't have another solution other than open flames. So we go and have a look at the highest risk thing, the highest risk area, and we target our campaigns to address each one of those with the intention that we must be able to track and record the wins as they happen. The other part of that also is, if I now track and I record and I've got good statistics and nothing's improving, I can go back to my campaign and say, where are we missing it? We thought we had identified the real problem, we identified the real solution, but clearly something is not working. And it's only through good statistics that we'll be able to go and revisit to then bring better solutions to the table. Next slide, please. So I've said this quite a few times, the importance of good statistics. It is absolutely critical so that I can go and have a look at what is really happening out there, evaluate it, see whether those things that I've put in place to try and remedy it is working. Part of that would be taking your information from before you did that intervention, tracking it while you're doing the intervention, and a while later. And this is possibly if you are working with decision makers that said, all right, we will allow you to do the campaign, create a department within, or a section within your department, and now they want to see what's the results. Please prepare them that these results for these things are not 6 months, 12 months. Typically, this kind of solution would have to be tracked over a number of years. But you need to show, before I started, this is what it looked like. Now, while I'm busy with it, these are the small wins that we are getting. And soon, 3 years, 5 years, we can show massive improvements, massive gains. And in some of the arenas we talk with nowadays, they talk about return on investment. So you might also have some kind of funder that says, all right, we'll support your program. Talk to your funders that they don't look at that as a short-term element, that if they come in, it's not, oh, here's a couple of bucks for the next 6 months. If they really want to see a return on investment, they need to support that investment over a longer period, which sometimes might mean that we pick a smaller area to focus on to give proof of concept. And when they see in 3 to 5 years that based on the good statistics that we've got, the improvement has come along, then you can always up the game a little bit and say, well, see there, in 10% of the problem, we had a massive improvement. The other 90% now also needs similar attention. So yeah, it requires long-term thinking. It's a bit like the stock market. You're not going to put your 50 bucks in today and 3 weeks later you're a millionaire. You're going to have to put in your 50 bucks every day for a while, and eventually there will be a payoff. I added a little to there. No, please go back to that slide, Barbara. There to the left, I have heard that there is a proposal to do a national study based on a few identified places to have a look at how fire incidents are reported, some areas, why that works well, other areas, try and help understand why it's not working well. So we, at FPASA, we kind of holding our breath to see, is this organization going to be successful in getting approval for that study to happen? I believe it's a very important study that needs to run, while we also looking at what can we do now, today, and even this webinar is part of a now, today intervention to really create that gospel out there, the message to say, report your incidents, share it nationally. Let's be better than we were last year and the year before that. But hopefully that more academic study will help us get a deeper understanding on where we are and where we should go. Thanks, Barbara. Next one. So what happens if we don't report properly? Next one, please, Barbara. If our statistics are not complete, we would have enormous gaps in insight. We would not fully understand what is busy happening around us. And that gap of insight would mean that I'm not as well prepared for those responses that are needed. And when I say responses here, I mean responding in that proactive manner with education engineering, but also responding in the reactive manner, having the right vehicles, having the right equipment, having the appropriate number of people, having the right training for the hazard that I have to go and face. That right training element is quite important for me. If you think of areas Let me put it this way. Our fire training is developing quite nicely, very much based on some NFPA input. And so we've got fire training in the country now that I don't want to give my age away too much, but nearly 40 years ago when I started in the service, training was, do you see it, that old guy over there? Go, he'll show you what to do. Today, we have well-developed training, and that gives you a basis to work from. But where you then eventually become a responder, you would need to build on that to say, well, okay, Marius, I joined Boksburg Fire Department. I'm going to ignore marine firefighting. Boksburg Lake isn't big enough to have marine vessels on it. So let's focus, Marius, on getting training in terms of structural firefighting. We've got quite a few large industry, high-risk industry. So we'd better do some petrochemical training on top of the baseline firefighter training. So that's part of the training thought that needs to go in based on what type of fires did we have over the last 5 years, instead of just keeping to that baseline. I also believe in the absence of good statistics that is not in the public view, the public wouldn't know what we're busy with. They wouldn't know how many times our vehicles roll on what type of incidents. And the South African budget system, especially for fire response at this point in time, while we're waiting for funding models to be sorted out and the like, our funding system is based in a great deal on what the public says they need. Oh, we need to be safer at home, so please give us more policemen. And then you see more policemen, more municipal policemen, more traffic officials, because that is their immediate need. Think about it. National crime statistics get published. We do not have a similar national fire statistics other than the FPASA magazine, which doesn't necessarily go to every member of the public like the national crime statistics. But over and above the public being informed, we need our decision makers to be informed. So even with slightly less than good participation, use the FPASA statistics to go to those decision makers. Let's improve that and have your own local statistics at hand. In that way, decision makers will have a tough time to say, no budget for you, because there would be good statistical grounds on which to motivate. And I understand sometimes a lot of you have that, and the no still comes through. Kind of the only sense of peace that I can offer is to say our job is to put the problem in front of the decision makers. If the popo hits the fan one day, you can say, I have shown, I have submitted the need for intervention here. But hopefully our funding models and the like will take a turn for the better over the next few years. If you did not pick up on it, I don't think there must be a firefighter right through to a fire chief in the country that don't know about this, but the Fire Brigade Board had been re-established and launched. So we are very excited about a new era that we're moving into. Also, if I don't have good statistics, it means that what I actually need to respond to, all of those problems, and again, keep in mind when I now talk response, I'm talking about the proactive response, education, engineering, enforcement, and the reactive response, fire truck on the road with people. Without it, I'm not going to be able to do that effectively. And by tracking and trending on all of the interventions and how busy we were, man hours afforded to it, etc., that would just not be possible. Before we move on, I think you heard that I spent a little bit of time in Eskom. If you think about Eskom as a small example of the big country that we had, every fire station at every power station collected information about any fires or emergencies that they attended to on that fire station. But we identified that the collecting of that information at the corporate head office was not very effective. I can tell you today, with the new guard that took over at Eskom, they have monthly reporting on all of the incidents. And because the decision makers in the company can see how busy the responders are at the fire station level, in the power stations, there's been a marked increase in investing in better fire prevention and better fire response. So on a small scale, I can promise you, if we do this right, there's been examples of improvement. So let's watch the space going forward for the country. Thanks, Barbara. Just a little bit of a quick history look. I'm aware of the time. I do want to leave a few minutes for conversation at the end. So on the history side, I'm going to try and run through that a little bit quicker. So we've been playing this role of collecting the data, basically for the entire existence of FPASA. We are in collaboration with the different fire stations, fire chiefs. We also build relationship with the National Disaster Management Center. There's a written agreement that the statistics we receive, we share with them. And we have also rolled the same kind of agreement out to many of the provincial disaster management centers. So all of that does exist. Do keep in mind that FPASA is also connected to the insurers. We don't hide that, but we're not the representative of the insurer. Just as we are not necessarily the representative of fire services. Our goal is to collaboratively look at everything together. And one of those common points is how many fires did we have where and why did we have them? So that collaboratively we can work towards all of the advantages, eliminating all of the negatives that I touched on in all of the previous slides. Next slide, please, Barbara. It's a little bit more of the history. And now I have to declare something. I asked AI to help me with the pictures and things. And I thought this was fantastic. When the heading says history, they gave us a picture of real old style fire truck with old style helmets and things over there. So my thanks to AI for that nice link. So here you see, since 1973, collecting the information started. I started in the fire services in the early 1980s, and I clearly remember that it was part of my job as a junior fireman to complete a big sheet, paper sheet with information. We've progressed to the point where you all now get Excel spreadsheets and we email things around. We don't have to send it by pigeon anymore, like we did in those beginning years. So at least we moved on a little bit. And the first report was published in 1973 in our magazine. And some of the early bits of information was that 32 fire stations provided information about their losses. Those of you that know would know that the losses were over a certain value. So there were losses under that value, but didn't get reported in the magazine, which I personally believe we need to revisit that. If we can modernize the thing, even if I have a 500 Rand loss, if we got 100,000 500 Rand losses, they actually add up. But the very first, there at the beginning, we saw 32 brigades reported. The loss at that time was 13.8 odd million Rand with 88 fatalities. I actually don't think that the picture has improved much, although that looks like a small amount for the time period. It wasn't that small. Next one, please, Barbara. Have a look at some of the trends. Next one. So in 2022, we saw that the losses amounted to 4.2 billion from the reports that we had received. And you'll see there, it indicates that 36 fire services reported. We have far more than 36 fire services in the country. So if you were to do an incorrect direct calculation and say, well, how many fire services do we have? Take the 4.2 billion, divide it by the 36, times it by the 100 and something. Potentially, our fire losses are 5-6 times what you see there. But that would be too much of a linear approach, and it's bad use of data. So please don't go and try and do that. It might be that a lot of the other municipalities are in less developed areas, not your Joburgs and your other metros. A lot of those still report, and there where we have a fire, they tend to be of bigger size because the buildings are bigger and the losses are bigger. So don't do a direct extrapolation. But the fact is that 4.2 billion impact on the country is not necessarily accurate. And even before I joined FPASA, I have been making a case that there are losses under the minimum amount that we set, that they add up, and we need to get our vision clear to have a full picture of what the losses are. And I do believe that the future will make that possible for us to do that. In that time, we had recorded from our side 485 fire-related deaths. Remember, the previous slide spoke about 88. So if we forget about the money and we just look at the impact on lives, again, we have a tremendous growth in numbers there, which really needs to be taken seriously to say, let's get behind understanding what this is all about. The last little bit of information, and one of the slides coming will also show that we seem to have a reduction in the number of fires from the one year to the next year. And the question is why? hopefully I'll address that why in one of the future slides. Next slide, please, Barbara. Yeah, and here it is. Prior to 2022, in 2021, we had 48 fire services sending their reports through to FPASA, down to 36. Then it's not a wonder that the 22 statistics looks like a reduction. It is not an actual reduction. It's a reduction in reporting, not a reduction in incidents, which then brings about that the information, if somebody now picks up the FPASA magazine and they don't make the trouble to read that little piece that this is from only 36 departments, they'll think, fantastic, the fire services are getting a handle on this. We were right not to want more fire departments, more fire stations, more firefighters. The guys that are there now and the ladies are doing a fantastic job. They reduced the fires. And we know that's not true. So there's a cost to pay for not having reported in the public eye. And we absolutely have to improve on that. Next slide, please, Barbara. We do have challenges, and we want to standardize. Next one, please. One of the big challenges that we're facing is that the report form that gets sent out has a field that asks for the cause of the fire. There's been a lot of talk and things going on about who is and who isn't a fire investigator. And there's some legislation around that. And we absolutely have to look at an improvement on our skill set as fighting officials, fire safety officials, and the like, so that we have more people with confidence around fire cause determination. And I use that word because the other word, fire investigator, is kind of a legal position that you take in, which might be one of the reasons why we see people choose those two areas, undetermined or other. And with just that, we really don't have a good picture of, is it most likely open flame? Is it most likely overloaded electrical outlets? Is it possibly arson? It seems as if there is a bit of a carefulness by the reporting parties to say anything about what might have caused the fire. One of the things that we would possibly do going forward is to add a disclaimer to protect the reporter, to say the expression on the possible cause of a fire will not be seen as a legal statement. Yeah. We absolutely need proper fire investigations to happen, and there's a way that we can achieve that. In my own estimation, if I don't want to be a fully fledged fire investigator, I can still become quite a competent fire cause determinator, which is a little bit of it's not quite like, I don't want to be a fire engineer, but I can give you my opinion about fire safety elements. There's a difference. So that's really one of the big things that we'd like to see some improvement on, is that people are a bit more bold in saying, as operational fire crew, we believe this is the most likely thing that had happened. Earlier slides, I touched on that. If we have that insight, then we can start preparing public education. We can start engaging engineered solutions, all kinds of interventions like that that will be aimed at that preventative, proactive arena. So that's one of the things that's really a challenge for us. We find that a lot of people just leave information out, like what's the approximate loss? And the reason why we want approximate loss built into the report that comes back is to say, well, there's an element of gauging the effectiveness for yourselves as responders. I went to Alcatel building, the entire building, potential value of the entire building, uh, 25 million for the building, another 150 million for the content. Our firefighting stopped the fire in about the first 10% of where that building is, and we stopped it from going into the high value storage area. So my approximate loss was 5 million rand, 18 million rand, but the 145 million rand that we now saved needs to also be acknowledged. And there's another piece of statistics that when I talk to decision makers, I can show them, look, you've invested in us doing these things. This is the type of return that I'm giving you. Fire did happen. There was losses, but because of the way that we were prepared, equipment, people, training, and other resources, we were able to minimize the loss. So the value of the potential or the loss at a fire is an important part of the reporting that you currently see. And we really want to encourage people to build that in. And in all of this, having a standard approach becomes quite important. Uh, we hope that through the use of software going forward and the like, that standardization will become easier and easier. To the left, you'll see a sentence about the absence of legislation. I didn't carry on too much about that because that is one of the things that we're hoping to influence as the white paper goes through and eventually we get a bill and we can see some regulations maybe coming out of this, then we can regulate. Any fire must be reported, and this is the minimum fields that must be captured. So I'm very hopeful that legislation will become something that we can latch onto. Just to drive a point home here, you'll see I put this table together with some information from 2013 through to 2022. And all the way up to 2019, you see a steady increase in numbers. Actually, between 2017 and 2018, you see the total loss just shoots up, doubles all of a sudden. And then 2020 is also quite a high year. But from there, we see a reduction. In comparison, your gross national income has also seen up trend, takes a dip in 2020. I believe that dip is COVID related. Very interesting that the similar time period, the fire losses shot up heavily. Makes you ask the question, did people use fire insurance to survive the lack of COVID income because of COVID? A bit of a question to ask there. But the picture that I'm trying to show is we were on a good track. And all of a sudden, after that COVID type period, we seem to have, other than for the population, we seem to have a reduction creeping in. And we'd like to turn the tide and see an improvement coming in the reporting. Hopefully, we can show a continued reduction in losses, a continued reduction in numbers of fires. But that must be because our interventions are good, not because our reporting is bad. Next one, please, Barbara. So where are we going? What are we going to try and do about this? Next one. Yeah, so again, this time I'm not too sure that I want to thank AI. The guy there at the whiteboard, I think AI was suggesting what I might look like in 20 years from now. Not too pleased about that. We have been having some very good fire safety seminars running, not only things that FPASA have been involved with, but others. And there was specifically at a fire safety seminar that was arranged by, I believe, NDMC and participated by a lot of the fire services, a resolution that quarterly statistics must be submitted. And that is linked to our whole disaster management, i.e., understanding where fires have a disastrous effect on communities, doing disaster management by fire prevention, disaster reduction by fire reductions, and the impact of fire reductions. So fire plays quite a big role in that, and we need the statistics. That was identified during that summer. And the provinces are very active participants in this, with the role that we play is a collection point where things come together. All of the different disaster management centers have direct access to us. They want some statistics about something in their area. It's an email to Neo at FPASA or compliance at FPASA, or even to me, Marius at FPASA, and you say, can you give me statistics about this or that? I remember a little while ago somebody asked me, can we give them statistics about retail warehouses? And we were able to go in and have a look and said, okay, there's warehousing. We cannot necessarily tell you this is a retail warehouse or this is a other distribution warehouse, but this is what warehousing looks like. Which, by the way, also we're looking at refining some of these fields bit by bit as we go forward. Next slide, please, Barbara. In the MOU that it currently exists between FPASA and NDMC, that access to the information is clearly outlined. We're looking at that improvement element going forward to help fire services. Oh, and our presentation disappeared there for a moment. Barbara, I hope we didn't lose you. Otherwise, we might be talking blind with people.
You're still live. We can still see you. Everything fine.
Okay. On my side, I can't see the presentation. Are you all able to see the presentation, in other words?
Yes, Marius.
All right. Okay. So I'm going to fly by wire then. Barbara, if we can go to the next slide, which says vision for real time and access. If I talk on something that's not on a slide currently, don't worry about it. Okay. Sorry about that. Good. Then the next slide. So what's our plan? What are we going to do? We still collect as we do. Please look out for emails. If you believe that you are supposed to get the email in which we ask for the statistics and you don't, let us know. Give us the contact details. That could be one of the things that's hampering us a little bit in actually getting the right information from the right people. But we're also actively talking where we have engagements with the different provincial disaster management centers. So we're going to carry on doing that. But we want to have a look going forward at how can we modernize this from sending a spreadsheet to possibly even having something that an incident theoretically can be captured by the responding officer, incident commander, on their cell phone, on their tablet, on their computer, on a single platform. And as you capture that for your own use and your own implementation, it automatically shares it to some national database where we can do all the collation and everything. So we're seriously looking at the potential of a solution like that. But I also know that some other entities are similarly looking at something that could do the same type of thing. So if you've got ideas, talk to us. Let's see, maybe there's something we can do for the future. And the last point there about real-time data benefits becomes important for me as well, so that we can see a trend develop in our area. All of a sudden, I had no felt fires. I had 2. Oh, the next day I have 7. The next week I've got 35. What's happening in my area? Is it within expected trends? Or is there something weird happening now that I have to very quickly get my head around and make sure that we can handle it? So there's some value in having this as a real-time thing that people can look at it, other than just the quarterly reporting with an annual report, which still is very useful. The next slide, please, Barbara. I think I carried on about this quite a bit. I really want us to take this to go from something that's on the FPASA magazine, which through our website is available to the public, but very few public members would download our magazine and read it. We'd like for them to do that more and more. But that we take this and we put it right in the face of number one, decision makers, but number two, the general public out there. And hopefully, before I lay my head down, we would have been able to make the turn that as we see national crime statistics go out, we have a similar national fire and emergency type report that gets put together, that the public is much better informed. Next slide, please, Barbara. To the right of this slide, you'll see the pie chart there. That, by the way, is just a quick picture from the white paper. And the white paper acknowledges also the utmost importance of statistics. If you don't have the white paper, it is a free download from COGTA's website. I'm sure if you do a Google search, you'll be able to find it. Very good reading for us to understand where the fire services are heading towards. And some of you would have had the privilege to also listen to presentations from people like Roland Hendricks with the vision from their department on where fire services is heading. So it's there so that we can be better informed, track what is busy happening, and stand ready for any threat that might come our way. It is important that we work together on this. Like I gave you the example in Eskom, every power station having their bit of information had far less of an impact on the business than when it was collected together. That really showed the real weight of impact of fire and how much worse it could be if we keep on just maintaining what we've got now. We have to collaboratively show this so that everybody has more of a motivation to work towards those improvements. And all of that must inform us what is the best thing to do. What kind of education? Not should I do education or not, what kind? Where do I focus it? What does it contain? What type of engineering solutions do we have to go and access? And how better to prepare for the response in all aspects of that. And the next slide is just a few conclusions, which you can go and read at your leisure. We have to have through. It is critically important. We have some challenges that we're working at trying to solve. And collaboration, I believe, is an important key to taking us forward. And then the last slide is just our thank you slide. If you need to make contact with us, you've got all of those bits and pieces of contact details over there. So thanks, everybody. I've left a few minutes for any questions. If I see we've got 1, 2, 3 hands still raised, I'm going to just call on the people that have their hands raised. If I can sort my little doodad out here. Clinton van Reenen, I see your hand is raised. Do you have a question?
Apologies. I think I didn't know my hand was raised. Apologies.
Not to worry. You can make up for it by asking a question, Clinton.
At the moment, I don't have any questions.
No worries. Thanks a lot, Clinton.
Thank you so much.
Michelle, I see you've got your hand up.
Yeah, if I may make a couple of comments. I'm a retired consulting engineer and did a fair amount of rational fire design work. And I'm absolutely aboard at how many times I've seen rational designs not seeking to improve fire protection and fire safety, but actually to reduce it. Omitting fixed fire protection systems such as sprinklers, downgrading hazards to reduce the amount of water flow that would have been required, or the water pressure at the sprinkler heads, use the incorrect sprinklers, all that to save a few bucks, which is really unconscionable. I mean, overseas, it is the other way around. Local authorities impose stricter regimes rather than what the regulations do. In South Africa, we're the other way around. We allow the so-called rational designers many times are irrational about the way in which they do it to actually reduce the safety of buildings by under designing fixed fire protection systems. And the other comment I'd like to make is just education. You know, education is so important. And I'd ask your audience here, how many people here realize that any bottle that contains alcohol with a greater percentage of 17% has a flash point of 35, under 35 degrees. And hence, any bottle store that contains more than 50 liters of liquids with more than 17% alcohol is actually a flammable store. So that's the point I'm trying to make. You need to educate people more and more if you want to reduce the losses from fires.
Well, thank you very much for those contributions. I'm sure that the audience will be seriously contemplating that. Mr. Stoffels, Dion.
Good morning, sir. Just a question. I'll latch on to the last speaker. As you know, we sometimes have more alcohol than water available in South Africa. So it'd be nice to share some of your information with this platform, perhaps. Obviously, we do get quite a few of those fires. I don't want to speak on behalf of someone, but I know there's a joke going around, and I'll say this tongue in cheek, that the last structure fire, the second last structure fire, formal structural fire, the alcohol was saved in the fire. But anyway,
Yeah.
my intended question is, will this information be made available? Because it's important that we also speak this high-level language with the powers that be within our municipalities, also to look at how we can improve things collectively, not just obviously us providing FPASA with stats, but our on-the-ground issues. This will also help, just giving them a high-level presentation in terms of this specific topic. Thank you.
Yeah, Dion, so our webinars, I make a bit of an effort to then make the webinar itself available on our YouTube channel after this. The presentation itself, we try and put that as, I'm not that tech savvy, but we try and put that as a downloadable, as when you watch the video, you can also download this file. But what FPASA will certainly offer is, if you'd like us to come and sit with decision makers, show them the picture, be that prophet that is not from Bethlehem itself, if you follow my analogy, we are more than happy to come and do that. We would seriously like to spread this throughout the country. So yes, it is available and it can be made available.
All right, thank you very much.
Thanks. Mr. Fry, Chris.
Hi, Marius. Thank you for the excellent presentation. I think for Dion and others with a similar question, they can just go back to the FPASA magazine in November 2024. I've actually got that open on the other screen and looking at what you've already published and what you are saying. And it's, yeah, thank you for the good work you guys are doing all along over the years. Much appreciated.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Mr. Enoch.
Thank you, Chair. Good day, colleagues. No, thank you for the presentation. It's highly informative and progressive for us in the area of statistical information sharing, collection, and use. We really appreciate it. Marius, just an observation. You did mention that the CSIR risk map that you showed earlier on for our fire stations in eThekwini was like pre-2010. I agree with you. One would note now that beyond the last station that you can see there being Amanzimtoti, there is also another station that was commissioned about 3-4 years ago, further down south.
Excellent.
And also we have the 2023 as the latest CSIR risk mapping on our social facilities. But other than that, we appreciate the presentation and it's making sense. I'm sure colleagues here are going to explore more engagement on it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chief. Really appreciate that input. I do see I have a question from Mr. Engelbrecht about occupation classification. Slightly off topic, but happy to very briefly engage on that. And then if there's maximum 2 more people, after which our time would have run out, I'm happy to take 2 more questions after this. Mr. Engelbrecht, yeah, the interpretation of the National Building Regulations and Standards Act and the designation of occupancy classes have been an issue of discussion for many years. One of the first things that I like to tell people is that you cannot rational design an occupancy class. An occupancy class is part and parcel of the regulation. So if you are confused about what occupancy class it is, you have to go to the regulator, and I know your answer. Maybe they are not in a position to answer questions like that, but it's a legal matter. It is not a rational design matter because it's in the regulation part. If I look at your example, a warehouse that might have been a low-risk warehouse, I am not a legal expert, but the definition for a J3 occupancy is something in line of where the content of the warehouse is of such a nature, high risk, burns quickly, can explode, gives off poisonous gases. Medium risk, less so. Low risk, a J3, nearly doesn't happen. So the definition is about the content and what can happen inside. So I would venture a guess that if we take your question to legal experts, we'll get 35 answers from them, but that is not the content. But what we have to start telling people is that the installation of panels, inverters, chargers, batteries are all defined as building work. The definition of a building is quite clear in the legislation part, the act and the regulation. And electrical installation work is seen as building work. So if people want to put it on their warehouse, want to put it on their private house, they have to submit building plans. And at that point, I believe we can then engage with the extra fire risk, regardless of the occupancy class. And you could possibly say, sorry, developer, owner, you have a J3, but the standard solutions for a J3 does not address the extra risk that you bring. Therefore, what's your design solution? I know I answered your question sideways. Mr. Fry, Chris, I saw your hand go up.
It would help if I unmute myself. Marius, this is obviously not the topic of the day, even though it's a very topical issue.
Yeah.
I was fortunate to attend a presentation by a gentleman which is on the technical committee for the NFPA code. And it's nice to listen to the international guys and what they are doing with UL and FM, etc. And their guideline documents, not regulations yet, it is still very much in its infancy, but they are thinking along the lines, any building that should get solar should get a Class A thermal insulation underneath, fully non-combustible, because It
Okay.
is a matter of time before you do get an electrical fire in the panels, whatever the cause thereof, and whatever is below it that can propagate that fire should be stopped right there and then. So remedial action, that's a whole different kettle of fish, but we are advising all our architects on all our projects to go Class A thermal insulation with all new builds. In South Africa, we know we're going to go solar eventually, so we might as well do what's possible in this early stage, because right now it sends extra on the project, but that's the only way to mitigate that risk going forward.
Yeah. Thank you for that contribution. And possibly we need to then engage again with Part T to see how we can adjust that table that we've got now. And Wynand, thank you. I see you caught me up that I just read the first 3 words and make up an answer. So statistically, part of what we are doing is a continuous, hopeful improvement on the information that we ask. So regardless of what occupancy class, we are looking at including a field that says, was it PV battery related fire? So you might say I had a warehouse fire, and then additional to that, it was also PV/battery related. So we are looking at how we can enhance those fields that the statistics will help us follow the hazard environment, and as that risk is busy emerging, that we can, all of the good things I tried to say today, we can really latch onto that. So everybody, thank you very much. I have used 5 minutes more of your time that we had booked. I really appreciate your time and your contributions, and looking forward to the next time we can interact with each other again. Thanks and goodbye.
Baie dankie, Marius. Tot ziens.
Thank you, Marius.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Marius. Cheers.